whatever you want to accomplish that makes you happy, that's success to me. After 8 years, I decided, I did my engineering degree, my PhD. I said, look, nobody's going to teach me business over here. I need to go after and do something in the business side. And that opened up my mind a lot. In terms of all the business stuff that I didn't learn really in the company and that I really needed if I wanted to go forward, right? You have to work hard to achieve things, and we need to survive. And this is the country that allowed us in and gave us the opportunities.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to ask a massive favor of you guys. At the moment, we're putting a big priority on growing our YouTube channel. So if you aren't already subscribed to us there, if you could head over to YouTube, type in the Quest for Success podcast, or just click the link down in the show notes below, head over to our channel and subscribe to us there. You'll get access to all of our video interviews that we do with our guests. And it will do us a massive favor because it will help us grow the show, which means we can get on bigger and better guests for you guys. And with that, back to the episode. All right, welcome back to the Quest for Success podcast, and thanks so much for tuning in once again. Today on the show, we're really looking forward to this conversation because we're joined by George Szegö, who is the group CEO at Mecalore, which is a Brazilian-based industrial refrigeration and thermal engineering company. And he is a third generation in the business, and really looking forward to kind of diving into his story and understanding a little bit more about him.
So George and I, again, one of our OPM members, classmates from Harvard Business School. And I'm actually really looking forward to having this conversation. I know I spend time here and there with George, but I wanted to really dig into his story and understand a bit more about you, George. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It'll be a pleasure to speak with both of you and catch up again.
So, George, this podcast is all about success. So we need to start with something pretty fundamental, and that is, what does success actually mean to you?
That's a very good question. To me, success actually is a concept that evolves over time. In the early days, I would say, I wanted to be, all I wanted to do is have good grades, study, and that was it. So to me, getting the degrees was all about success. Was getting all my degrees that I wanted, study. I was always curious. I always loved learning, studying. So I went through this path of achieving certain degrees, getting my diplomas. That was a success for me. But then throughout life, you get married, have kids. So to me, actually, success is more generically something that whatever you want to accomplish and that makes you happy, that's success to me, and that evolves over time, really. In these days, I was always family and friends are always within the picture. Having kind of a balanced life is success. Is how you spend your time doing the stuff that you love, that you like. I love working, so eventually I'm always constantly working, and at a certain stage, I wouldn't say I work balanced life, because most of the time it's an unstable equilibrium, using scientific terms. So sometimes you have to work really hard, and that's all you have to do. And I've done that throughout my career and my life. And sometimes you need more time with your family and friends, and or with the kids. So it's having that ability to do or spend time with whatever you love and what makes you happy. But to me, that's a success, and that means even in the business, if you want to accomplish something in the business and you work towards that and you achieve that, so that's success to me. So it's something that evolves throughout your life.
It's a journey, right? Yeah,
it's 100%. A journey for sure.
And I suppose for us to understand the context behind the man who's sitting in front of us today, we need to go back to your early life. Can you give us a bit of an idea into kind of your upbringing and how you think it's shaped who you've become today?
Yeah, early life. I had a really, really happy childhood. So I was I was born. My parents and my entire family, they're Hungarian, right? So
All right.
they immigrants from Hungary. My grandfather came from Hungary in '56. Came to Brazil, had nothing. They pretty much left after the Soviets invaded Hungary. They came to Brazil with nothing. Obviously, my father was 7 when he arrived. My uncle was 2. So they pretty much they were brought up. So my dad was brought up here in Brazil, and eventually met my mom after years and years. He went back to Hungary and married a Hungarian woman, and she ended up in Brazil as well. And then I was born. So I was born in a family where I had a very I was very happy when I was young. So I we lived in a big we had like a complex of apartments. We had, I lived in like a small town full of kids. I was always, studying and doing all sorts of sports and hanging out with friends all the time. Um, but I always had, this. I felt that I was like a fish out of the water because all my family was European, Hungarian style. They had it completely different from all the Brazilians around me. So for a while, I was like sort of, I don't understand. It was kind of hard to fit in. But then eventually, look, I'm Brazilian, so I got to me, I've got the good sides of being from my European Hungarian family, mixed with a Brazilian culture, and then slightly understanding how to move on because at home was completely different from when I was like visiting my friends at home. Um, different styles of upbringing. So at home was a lot of about education, right? Because my grandfather left with nothing. All he had was he was an engineer. So he had his trade. So he came to Brazil, built, started work, and eventually started his first company, which is Mecalore was his first company that he built. And to him was, this is what we got to do. We got to survive. Right? We came here, we need work, we have to work hard, we need to survive. And it was all about hearing how, you have to work hard to achieve things and we need to survive. And this is the country that, allowed us in and gave us the opportunities. I was always hearing about that. All the stuff that I always heard is, how they had a Jewish background. So when they came to Brazil, my father and my uncle, they didn't have a Jewish upbringing here in Brazil because they were scared after the war. A lot of people from great grandfather and people died in the war or in camps. So stuff that I stuck to my mind, and so I was always like trying to find the roots or where I came from. I was born in Brazil. But I have this very strong Hungarian. So I'm 100% Hungarian blood. I still have family from my mother's side of the family in Hungary, so we keep in touch. We had a very large Hungarian community around us at the time. So this is what I remember from the very early days. So this is how it shaped me to become. And in the end, my father was also a mechanical engineer. So
All
my
right.
grandfather was a mechanical engineer. My father was a mechanical engineer. I tried to do something different, but I ended up being a mechanical engineer as well. So I actually tried, but didn't work out. So it's still what I really love. So it's a little bit about my upbringing, what things shaped me in the early days.
Yep.
And you ended up doing mechanical engineering, as you said, and that even brought you out here to Australia, didn't it?
Yes, it did, because And again, my father did his PhD degree in Penn State back in the US, and I didn't want to go to the US and follow the same steps, right? So always wanted to do my own thing. I'm going to do my own thing, and I tried really hard, but I ended up being a mechanical engineer. But I said, look, I need to go to an English-speaking country, but I don't want to go to a cold place. I love Australia. I want to be, as far as I can, so I can, I was 22, so I applied. I tried. I was working here in Brazil, so I just graduated from uni, and I was working in this company already. It was a company that did. It was power plants, big power plants, cogeneration power plants with steam turbines, gas turbines, boilers, and that kind of stuff back in Brazil. And then I realized, look, I want to study more. So I want to get out of here and continue studying, because I wanted to be a scientist, really. So let's find something in Australia. So I reached out, I looked at a couple of universities in Australia, Sydney, and then Adelaide had a pretty good one in the field that I wanted, was combustion. So I applied, and they gave me a scholarship and said, look, if you can, you just come whenever you want. So I said, oh, fine. So I was kind of lucky, because at the job that I had, the company was they sold the company. It was a big multinational company from Spain. And then, they sold their assets, and it became a different company. They laid off a lot of people, and I got laid off as well. So I got a good severance package to go to Australia at the same time. So to me, I was lucky there. And then yes, I spent 5 years in
Nice.
Adelaide, burning stuff in the lab. So I had a pretty good part of my life in the lab, burning some stuff in a little furnace that I built. It was good fun, good times.
Yeah, and also you worked in Australia as well, right?
I did some jobs for the Defense Department while I was there.
Yeah.
So that helped to support me while I was studying. So I got the scholarship, but it was like my professor at the time. He gave me half of whatever grant he had, so that was not enough for the entire time. So I said, "Well, let's try to do some consultancy job for the Defense Department." So we had one of my professors over there had some contacts. He worked at DSTO in Australia. So I did a 6-month job for them. It was completely. It was a propulsion system for a missile that goes above Mach 4. So how you burn the fuel and that. So that was fun as well. So I had that opportunity. Besides, obviously, I was always correcting and doing some mentoring and tutoring, so to get some money, so I can go to the Belgian beer bar at the time and drink a little bit. But that was all the time. That was good fun. Made
That's
very
awesome.
good friends in Australia.
Yeah. George, so coming from a third generation engineering background, like your family, what's the family like? What's living in a like engineer's house like?
Oh, you have to ask my wife.
True.
He's a
Yeah.
lawyer. But yeah, it's always, it's a very analytical. So it's. But I was completely different. I was very different from my dad.
Yeah.
But our engineers want to solve problems, right? We're problem
Yeah.
solvers. So whatever we see, we need to try and solve it. That's pretty much it. So when I speak to some people, they say, "Well, look, you don't have to just listen. You don't have to try to solve it. I don't need an answer or a solution. Just listen." So that's the kind of house we live in. We sometimes like details and numbers and that kind of stuff. So that's something very common here. We like math, so we like physics, we like chemistry. So that's how I used to Now I learned how to, deal with lawyers. So I've been married for 18 years now. But it's a good conversation. We love solving problems, really. When
Yeah,
we see
yeah.
a problem that we need to solve, we stay up at night and we think of like, oh, this is like a big puzzle. How am I going to solve this? How am I going to break this down and try to, solve this little piece and move forward? So that's how our brain is wired to work, I guess.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
most engineers, I would say.
Yeah, and more than just engineering, like you grew up in
yeah.
in a family business, right? So how was that like? Because I know your grandfather started Mecalore. So what was it like growing up in the family business?
Yeah, that's a good question because to me, I was like, the family business was never about, for my grandfather. He thought of the family business as his workplace. It's just
Yeah.
another salary, a wage.
Mm.
I go to work and make whatever I need for my living,
Yeah.
and that's it. Not saying he wasn't, he loved being there. He loved, growing the company. But he started with Mecalore. It was a very small company downtown here in Sao Paulo. They used to do fixed refrigerators. At the time, you would take, your fridge to, take out a compressor and put another new one in, and that's how he started. So on the service side. Um, Eventually, he realized that here in Brazil there was no refrigeration equipment available. Nobody was doing that, and suddenly he started to do stuff for restaurants, stuff that is very common these days. But at the time, they didn't have it in Brazil back in the 60s and 70s. So he would start to build stuff for restaurants. He would start to build like wine cellars for rich people, so they store their wine. He did like morgues, so that needed refrigeration. So he started to
Yeah.
do anything
Wow.
related to refrigeration, pretty much. Cold chambers for food, and eventually, he took on a huge job. It was a major chamber. He didn't have space for that, and he said, "Well, look, I need a factory," and he went after a factory, and that's how he, ended up with a refrigeration factory at the time. Um, he had another business as well. He went into the plastic industry came to Brazil back in it was about late 80s or early 80s. So he built another business, and that was his major business. That business was the one that he was working. And Mecalore was a small company. It was like literally in the back of the other company.
Oh,
You had to walk through the entire company. He had, dozens of injection molding machines, and he was, producing. He was the largest producer of auto parts for Honda motorcycle here in Brazil. So that,
oh
that
wow.
company was large. And Mecalore was a tiny little company. And I used to walk around with them, and I'll go to the annual parties, and they had the barbecues. So I was just walking around the factory. My grandfather always would take me on a tour or come with me. So he would like, I'll go to the workplace. He parked his car. He was like very methodical. He parked his car every day at the same time, at the same place. He would go up, leave his stuff, come do a tour around the factory. So he was like, come with me. I'll show you around. So I would go. It's like, this guy is doing a good job, and why he's doing a good job. And we just bought this new equipment over here. He bought like, a 3D measuring, so he would measure, some parts of the first 3D measuring thing of Brazil. So it was he was very into quality and innovation. So I grew up hearing all those things. But to me, well, that was his job. He
Yeah.
didn't talk
Mhm.
about it as, a legacy or anything. Just like, this is what I do for a living. I have this
Yeah.
factory, and the other one is something different. It was at the back. He was. They had woodwork still at the time, so he would actually get the guys over there in the factory to build him, beds and chairs instead of refrigeration equipment. So that's what I remember. After a while, my father joined the company. My father worked in a very large engineering company here in Brazil for 11 years after he came back from his PhD from the US. And eventually, he needed some extra cash. He went into he called up his dad and said, "Look, you have I need a summer job." I thought, "Yeah, come on in. You can work. We need some drawings." At the time, all the drawings were by hand and that kind of stuff. So he was doing that for a month, and eventually he never left. So he stayed in the company and said, "Look, there's this other company. I think you should take care of it because this one is just too big, and then now it's yours. Do whatever you want." But so that's how he pretty much started in the business. And then my dad completely transformed. So I was when he joined, I was probably about 9 or 10 years old. And then I remember because we had it was a big thing, and now he was like kind of fighting with his dad pretty much all the time because he wanted to do stuff and his dad didn't want anything to do it. So I remember that time of my life, and we weren't we had hardships at the time before he actually went into the family business. Not that we just had a very tight budget. I remember, right? So, and then after that, after a while, he managed to get better. The company grew. He was really into the engineering, so he brought all these engineering. He brought in computers to the business, and he transformed engineering. He transformed the brand that we have now these days. So we're a recognized leader in most markets we work in here in Brazil, and that's what we did. He grew the company. The company he's kind of the founder of this company, really.
Yeah.
My grandfather started it, but it was something that was small, and he didn't really care about it because he had another factory, which he had. At the time, he had almost 600 people working in 3 shifts, and so it was a very large company. And the other one was just to build these beds and chairs and kind of stuff, building probably one equipment every couple of months. And so my dad took this company and wherever we are today, right?
Awesome.
This is what I remember, really.
Yeah. And did you always anticipate you would end up in that business, or did you kind of want to steer clear of it?
No, actually, in the beginning, I wanted to do my career. So look, we have a family business. I don't want to go into the family business. I don't want to just sit in a chair and my father or my grandfather or whoever just tells me this is how you run a company. This is how you need to do business, blah blah blah, and this is what you have to do. You just continue this, and here's your paycheck. I never wanted to do that. I wanted to have my career first as a scientist, right? So I worked in Australia. Eventually, I said, look, if I want to be a scientist, I need to do a postdoc somewhere. But eventually, I said, well, as soon as you start going on that career of a scientist or a professor, you get less and less of what I really love doing, which is being in the lab, doing the experiments and that kind of stuff. You go into more admin work, you have to teach, and then you have to be part of the group who puts up the syllabuses for the classes. And look, I'm not going to do that. Came back to Brazil. I actually went back to Brazil from Australia because I was in a long distance relationship at the time. It was my girlfriend. She's my wife today. So 2 years, she came back. She came to Australia 3-4 times to visit. She said, "Look, enough. You have to come back." So I finished I finished whatever I had to in the lab. Came back to Brazil. Eventually, she said, "Look, I have a job opportunity. I'm going to New York." And I said, "Oh, okay, let's go to New York then. I just got nothing here in Brazil yet, so let's move to New York." And then she said, "Look, we have to get married then." So, fine, let's get married. So we got married. I still went back to Australia for a few months. Came back, got married. I went to New York. I was still finishing up some work that I had in my doctorate degree. Finished that, but that was 2008. So that was the big financial crisis. We were living in New York. No opportunities for foreigners pretty much, and nothing for me to do as an engineer in Manhattan. Right, most consultants. I said, look, I'm going back to Brazil. I'm going to find a career path. So I really wanted to be, in the corporate side. I love engineering, so I wanted to do engineering work. I went back to Brazil, find a job in the same line of business, so cogeneration, power plants. I found myself, with good friends that I had from the past. They gave me a job, so they said, "Look, this whatever you're gonna earn, come back whenever you want. Just let me know." So this is what happened. We came back from New York, and I was working. So it's a private equity company. So they just acquired this. They had a management buyout of this company. So it's kind of a startup with a private equity. They had a lot of assets, but they were building the company so they can sell it later. So that was a very good experience for me. I learned a lot, and that's what I wanted, to have my own path, my own career. I wanted to be a manager somewhere else and grow. And I never thought of obviously I always thought of eventually going into the family business, but when I wanted to eventually, and when there was an opportunity there, and not that my father would say, and he would respect that. He did. So you do whatever you want. You just let me know, because if you're not coming, yeah, I need some succession. I need to think about succession, right?
Yeah. So you didn't get any pressure from your father to join the business
No,
directly?
not a lot, not a lot. He let me, because he saw I got a lot of kind of you're not doing the right thing. He would never say, come and work with me or come and work in the company. He was always like, oh, that whatever you're trying to do, it's not going to work. So, but I said, I'm going to do my way. So I'm going to try. I'm going to do, even if I fail, doesn't matter. I'm going to have my own path. And if that eventually leads to the family business, fair enough. But I never had that as my end goal, right? We didn't have any kind of these are the rules if you want to come into the business. No, we didn't. That was kind of the path I took.
So George, how that transition happened from working for someone else and then you start coming to your business? How that happened? Did you actually talk to your dad, or how that early?
It was at the time. So I was in this private equity. So it's a private equity owned business, right? So they wanted to sell it. So I went in there and I worked really hard for 3 years. I pretty much didn't see my son in his first year of life. I was traveling everywhere. So it was a really great experience. And during that path, I was lucky enough to have 2 mentors in that company that really believed in what I was doing, and that was really important to me. So these 2 people, I said, look, you're going to be a manager. So I say, you crazy? I just came out. I was a PhD student, a year back. And how are you going to turn me into a manager and manage 100 people all over Brazil in these power plants? And I don't know how to do that. So just relax. You can do it. I'll help you. So, it was a time where they actually, I participated in the process of helping them sell the company. So they sold the company, and eventually, all that startup field, and I had a lot of autonomy. I was able to do kind of whatever I wanted, the way I wanted, and I was developing the team the way I wanted. Eventually, they sold, and they came. This big Japanese corporation came in. They said to me, it was like, game over. The fun is over. I'm not going to learn more down the track, and the fun is over. And in the family business, they were after an engineering manager for a very long time. They couldn't find anyone that could really stand up for my dad and discuss stuff with him. So, oh, you're perfect, right? So you had an engineering career. You're a mechanical engineer. You're also a PhD like he is, so he's gonna respect you. Okay, fine, I'll try. I'll go there for a year. If that works out, because if it doesn't, I'm still young enough to move and do other stuff. So I went. I had I had a pretty hard, probably 3 to 4 years with him. He was not my direct boss, but I had a guy who's still there with us. He's more than 40 years in the company. He was my boss, so he was between my dad and I. And I stayed there as an engineering manager for 8 years, still with the boss. So that's how I learned. Neither my grandfather or my father was really, they were engineers that were trying to run a company. They did successfully run, but they're not like business people, right? So I was not brought up as how you do business models, and finance and that kind of stuff. No, just do the engineering work, and if you do it very well with a lot of quality, we're going to succeed, and that's the recipe, and they did. But and that's when I joined the company, and I was in our core business is engineering. So I learned all the engineerings. I developed a lot of the products that we have today. Managed to learn a lot from clients. So it's a very good experience to me. And that's how I joined, pretty much.
George, so recently you had to kind of take over the business, like unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. So what was that like?
So it's going back a little bit. I was already 8 years in as an engineering manager.
Yeah.
Everybody was saw me as the successor, but my dad didn't really want to stop working, which is fair enough. But he needed a succession, and because the succession was not only me sitting in his chair, but other people wanted to evolve as well in the company. So it was at that point. After 8 years, I decided, I did my engineering degree, my PhD. I said, look, nobody's going to teach me business over here. I need to go after and do something in the business side. So in 2018, I decided, let's go do an executive MBA. So I went after that as well. So, I was curious, and that opened up my mind a lot. In terms of all the business stuff that I didn't learn really in the company, and that I really needed if I wanted to go forward, right? If I needed a good transition, that was in my head. So in 2018, I started to do an MBA here in Brazil, São Paulo, a good place. And then 2020, when I was finishing the degree, the pandemic hit. So we had this chance, and so I moved. That was the best time for me, because I moved from an engineering role to a business development role at the time. And during the pandemic, we managed to acquire. That was the first time we did it. We acquired a competitor because we had that opportunity, and with that came some international partnerships as well that we needed. So in the last 5 years, the company. After that, right? So from 2019 to 2024, last year, we grew like 3 times in terms of revenue. So an industry growing that much in that short period, that was like, puts a lot of strain in the business. So eventually we opened up an office in Mexico. We just opened an office now in Colombia. We started to export more. Now we are like 4 companies. We acquired a very large project here in Brazil, a 10-year-old project. It's going to go for 10 years in a big hydroelectric power plant here in Brazil. So the company was very big at the time. I was already in a business development side. Obviously, it was not only because of me, but everyone was kind of something that was kept, and my father didn't really want it, and suddenly this big expansion happened, and everybody just went, and so we needed to restructure the company, right? So that was the time I needed, and that was 2020, and then eventually I said, look, I need some sort of leadership program, right? So I'm just going to continue learning on the business side. That's when I tried to join the OPM. Didn't work because of the pandemic, so I joined it later. First year of OPM, I was still, and my father would not say that I was his successor, right? He would not say. Like everybody was like, look, of course that's him. You know, he's the most qualified. Everybody knows, but what should we do?
Yeah.
So people would try. It was kind of weird relationship. Not with my dad, but like people they wanted to be good to me and talk to me because I was just gonna be you're gonna be probably his successor eventually. So I have to be in good terms with you, not only with him. So the dynamics wasn't really good, and for my dad, the business got just too big for him to handle. He was the most intelligent guy that I know. He was very, very, very intelligent. He was a very good person, but he had his limitations in terms of like business, and he knew that, right? But eventually, what happened is we started. So in my first year, we finally got back from Boston, and we started to say, look, we need to sit down and talk about succession. I said, you're fine. Back in the days, I said, well, we need a board here in the company so it can help us out, well, for how we can move forward. Companies are much bigger than we used to. Now we're a multinational company going international. He said, okay, fine, I'll listen to you. And eventually, after my first unit, he said, well, okay, he announced to the others officially that I was going to be his successor. So that was like a big step for him and for me. So we were having the best time. We sat down and we managed to talk business. He would started to respect me and say, look. In the beginning, he would disagree with 99% with whatever I said. That year, he started to agree with 90%, and he's like,
Nice.
okay, yeah, you're the guy for the future. I don't know how to do this anymore. So it was a really good. But he had a tragic accident, right? So he started to
Oh.
plan a transition. He had a tragic accident back in January last year, 2024. So suddenly, plans just pretty much gone. There was no time for a smooth transition. Uh, I felt prepared, right? So I felt prepared, but when it hits you, I was always involved in the decisions, in the strategic part of the business, and whatever we wanted to do. But suddenly now it's on me.
Mhm.
So stuff that I was complaining about. Oh, I'm the one who actually going to have to solve it, right, from now on. With not a lot of time, to move things forward. So pretty much, last year was a very tough year,
Yeah.
but it was a very good year also. Last year was our last unit in Harvard. So Harvard for me was really good in that.
Mhm.
So for me, it was a very very a nice transformation with everything that happened. It really opens up your mind to me. So as a leader now, pretty much last year I kept most things as they were and understood a little bit of the dynamics and how we can move forward. And last semester I started to change stuff slowly. And
Mhm.
this year is pretty much my first year as I
Yeah.
can say, the CEO of this group. Now we have 5 business units. I still have to structure this. So I'm continuously learning as we go. I just didn't have
Absolutely.
this time, smooth transition. It all happened at once.
Yeah. So since you kind of taken over what your dad was doing, did you see anything that you need to change immediately?
For sure. We already started. For example, my dad, the company is 65 years old, right?
Oh.
And we grew tremendously in 5 years, as I said. We tripled the company. We have units outside Brazil, and he didn't like finance at all, at all. So we didn't have a budget. So we
That's
didn't have a
amazing.
budget. That's like, how can you do it without a budget? Well, it worked. So that's
Yeah.
how it was always like, it worked until now. But I convinced him so during the pandemic when we we acquired this competitor, so we had to pay, we bought a company. And at the same time, we tripled the factory as well. So we invested in manufacturing and tripling our facilities. So we pretty much got all the money, the company has made in 60 years and invested at once. And eventually, the finances without a budget, there was no predictions, no forecasting, no nothing, so no controls. Yeah, he ended up putting back a lot of money back into the company. Everything that he personally made his entire life, he reinvested. I said, look, you cannot live like that anymore. So that was the first thing is getting the finance of the company. And I'm not a big finance guy myself, but we really need that. So that was the first thing that we need to overcome. So we in the second or third cycle of budgeting, we're learning how to do that and protect our finances, right? So it's not that everything is not going well, but we need controls and that kind of stuff. And the other thing was, the succession was about me. It happened with this accident immediately, but the other people needed also their paths, right, moving forward. So I changed the design of the organization to deal with this, multinational company that we have. So we have to behave like a multinational company. We need controls as a multinational company. An example: my father went there for an inauguration of our subsidiary in Mexico in 2019. Never went back. It never went back. So it's like, how come? And this is like, these people are growing. And, they're selling it. So it's all good. We're making money. So this kind of thing. So I really respect whatever brought us here, which is was fundamental and it was successful. We weren't be here without that, without him and the others bringing us here. And now, slightly changing that and, just restructuring the company as we need to behave these days. And for the future, we want to, our next big goal is reach the United States. So get into that market, which is, one of the most competitive in the world. We need a lot of certifications on our products. So we're working towards that. So my father was a people guy, only people. He said people are happy, we're doing well, which I really believe, and I don't want to lose those values. But we also need, the results side of things, which comes with, good controls, finance, how you operate. So that's the first thing that I've done. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
And
changing the design.
How do you go about managing that change where it's like, it's a family business, so there's a lot of legacy there. So how do you manage the kind of innovation while still maintaining that legacy piece?
Oh, that's hard, man. That's hard. That's hard. I mean, the good thing is, and it's that I inherited, is a very good people and very good managers and directors that are willing to do the best for the company. And that's probably the legacy that my father left. Obviously, probably the most important one. He had very good people that believed in whatever we do. Really, what we do is behind the scenes. Really, it's not a sexy business, right? We manufacture refrigeration equipment, so it's hard. We had a case in Harvard that was similar in that sense, right? That how can you make this business a purpose for a business where you manufacture auxiliary equipment nobody sees, and that cannot fail, and that are behind the scene, and it's not very sexy. But he managed to have a group of people that love these kind of engineering, solving complex solutions, and bringing innovation. So one of his passions was we manufactured climatic chambers, which are like a big box where you put in all sorts of stuff in different sizes and dimensions. So for example, you can put two big tractors inside, and you simulate weather inside. So sunlighting, temperature, humidity, and that kind of stuff, pressures. And so these chambers are really innovative and innovation. So that was one of his big passions, and we're still doing that a lot. So this kind of a special projects and customized work is how we manage to actually go and continuously innovate and motivate people because they learn. There's a very dynamic. There's always like something different happening in the company. It's not a standard production that goes on and on forever, and you just need to optimize. So that's how we keep innovation going, and people share their ideas, work on very challenging projects. On the people side, obviously, change of mentality, that's pretty hard, right? So, we're moving from, keep my dad happy was how it was done in the past. If he was happy, everybody was happy.
Yeah.
So they learned how to keep him happy. It doesn't work like that with me. I need to get professionalized a little bit, business, look at results, higher risks these days. It doesn't work this way if you want to go international, where you have big competitors, global competitors, and that kind of stuff. So that's the big change. That's the most challenging stuff. But it all goes back to having the people and the change of mindset. That's the hardest stuff. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, you are a great place to work certified organization, right? And
Yeah.
uh, I mean, as you said, so your employees, your team members, they pretty much work on your to satisfy your dad. Now you're changing the rules, and you're coming with different processes, etc., to make it more, like more process driven organization. So how do you gonna keep that great place to work culture? You know, I mean, changes. People don't like changes, right? So
Well,
that could be a big challenge, right? One of the key challenges that you have right now.
uh, change to me is that this change, but the entire change management. I've actually been studying about how you do. It's easier to study than actually implement this change
Yeah,
management.
yeah,
But to me, it's like change brings fear, right? So insecurities in people. So like people feel that like, oh, I'm going to lose my job, or whatever I did now is not fine. I have to change the way I do things. I have to change the way I think about things. So that's something that needs to be in my view, and how we try to do it is gradual. So you have to tell them what's going to be done, how it's going to be done, why it's going to be done, and eventually you have to do it. And you are going to lose some people along the way that are not going to want that new reality anymore, and that's part of change. We're doing that very gradually, or as gradually
hmm
as we can. We don't need, because we have the good thing about being a family business is that we're looking on the long term and not
yeah,
like short term, right? So I don't need to go there and say to the board, look, this quarter was amazing. Next quarter is going to be even better. We just want to be in the game, right? We want to be in the game for the long run. So we're thinking about the long run, how we can get there, so we can some things we cannot do it that gradually. We have to change, but it's a lot of uh, telling people what we need to do, why we want to do it. So the people part is very challenging, Jen. And I'll say
oh
that
yeah,
some people are going to be happy and are really happy that with these changes. Like, well, this is
yeah,
what we
yeah.
needed, right? We need more objectivity. We need more KPIs. We need more. So they're going to love and they're going to thrive now, and they weren't in the past. And some people are not just going to adapt to this new reality. And I
Yeah.
think the people who are actually going to be there are the ones that are going to be happy with this prospect of new things coming and working towards and building that stuff together. A great place to work. We're actually just doing this week again. The
All
first
right.
time we did it was last year. For us, it was like something we've never done, to actually assess how we were doing, and we're fortunate enough to be have a good grade and get the certification. We need to repeat. I think this year with the results, they're going to see how happy people are, and We want to hear from them, and that's really how you can make. You
Absolutely.
need to listen and hear the
Yeah.
people in different ways. But it's challenging, right? But I think the organizations that will thrive is like, they take good care of their people, but they have their eyes on results as well. Both. You need both. If you're only like,
Absolutely.
just results, like, most financial institutions, banks, and investment bankers, just about results and bonuses. That works, well for them, but that's how they work. And just companies that do just say no, just take care of the people, and just make them happy, but you don't have the results. Either they fail, or they couldn't have they don't have the results they could have. I think a good mix, but that's the difficult part. That's the most challenging part for me.
There's a balance to be had there. And I suppose
Yeah.
on the innovation piece that you were talking about earlier, I know you're pushing a lot of sustainability. I want to understand why that's important to you, and also where do you think the future lies?
Well, sustainability for me is a very broad term.
Mm.
Most of the time you think about the environment, like the climate change, and then eventually look, climate change is a really big problem to tackle. Everybody needs to be involved, but that's too big. So for us, how can we, change or our surroundings, or the stuff that we do that will help the world be a better place and avoid that. We're into refrigeration. So, they have the Kyoto Protocol these days. Most countries signed. We need a new class of refrigerants for the future to avoid global warming. So we're working towards developing those products as quick as we can. Europe is already using those types of refrigerants in their refrigeration equipment. The United States just started last year, and in developed countries like Brazil, it's going to take longer in terms of legislation. But we want to be first. We want to pioneer that. We want to be here, and we are the ones who want to bring the change and change our products and change the way we think and the market thinks. And since we're leaders in a lot of the markets we're in, we want to be the first ones and bring that technology to Brazil and the other countries that we're already working on, especially in Latin America, which we're really behind in terms of legislation and the need for that. And I think Mexico is going to be a big driver in that. So in sustainability on the environmental side, I would say that's more efficient products with this new type of refrigerants. It's a challenge for a lot of manufacturers because they can be explosive or burn. They're pretty safe, but you need some sort of safety protocols over there. So it's very challenging. But they're doing that in Europe and in the States, and so why can't we do it here and be the first ones? On the sustainability side, a lot of working with the new refrigerants, because that's our field, and having very efficient as we can be. That's part of it. Sustainability, and I think we come from Brazil, so what we can do in our surroundings, it's not exactly sustainable. It's more on the social side. I believe a lot in education. So we have 500 families that depend on us in several different places in Brazil and outside Brazil. How can we better educate these people and make their lives also? Obviously, they have the paychecks with us, but how can we make their lives better? They become better persons because of the company or what they learn. They trade. They pass that down to their families and whoever is surrounding them. I think this is part of what we're trying to accomplish as well. One of our big dreams is having our own, kind of university set up. So, to train these people, to make them better persons. So that's in terms of sustainability and what I think for the future. That's the kind of stuff that we're trying to implement. But obviously, you need results in a company to allow you to do all that stuff and continue investing in all that stuff. So that's the kind of stuff that we are working on right now.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. And I suppose going back to the legacy piece, you know, your granddad started the business in a 20 square meter room, and then your dad took it over, and I suppose under his leadership, it went global. What is your legacy going to be, or what do you want your legacy to be?
Very good question. Well, I think my dad made as I said, my grandfather was the guy who brought all this European style quality assurance and that kind of stuff for the business, and he really believed in that. Uh, my father brought in all the engineering. We need to be good engineers. We need to have very reliable equipment. We need to work, keep quality as much as you can. That's our big differential. What differentiates us from the others. So we want to compete. We need to have very engineered products. His passion was really engineering. We moved kind of against his will internationally, really, a big leap when we opened in Mexico. So to me, he's I wanted to be seen, the company seen as a global player, really. Like, we play in different markets. We decided to play in the Americas first. When I say global, for us is the Americas. We already consolidate our position here in Latin America. There are countries that are kind of similar to Brazil, and then move to the States. For to me, it's like we reach the States, we can play there. We can. That's to me is going to be international, an international player really. So I have some companies here in Brazil that did that in the manufacturing space. In Braer, and those are the guys who I look up to and say, well, we obviously we're smaller, but we can do the same thing. We can do the same path. So that's to me for the company wise. That's it. And
So George,
yeah,
sorry
yeah,
to cut you off. Do you do anything different to your dad in the international business?
yeah. I guess we do because I wanted to be as he was also a scientist, so he was happy. Having these special projects where he could be, the engineer, the scientist in different projects. To me, I wanted to build something bigger. So I think bigger. How can we do that big? So eventually, we built a big lab. There was a big lab to certify our equipment in terms of performance, and we really need that to go internationally. So certifications, going through standards and that kind of stuff. He was like more local, right?
Yeah.
It was treat everything as Brazil. His mindset was Brazil. That's what he knew. We didn't want to really, go and talk to the Colombians and then go to Bolivia and then that was too much for him. But I love that really. Well,
Yeah.
let's go out and learn from people and learn from. Well, that's kind of the difference. We just certified our lab finally, an international certification. That's the first lab in the Southern Hemisphere where we can certify this type of equipment we manufacture here. Air-cooled chillers inside this chamber from an American institute. That was, big thing for us. That happened a couple of weeks back. So our engineers are really happy with that. It's a large accomplishment in Brazil, Latin America. I think this way is just think bigger in terms of what our engineers can do. Sometimes we feel that we're the underdog, we're in a developed country, we cannot do this stuff. So I think that's the mindset. Well, look, yeah, we can. My father really thought of the products have to be internationally good. And I think we can be as good as them or even better than them and work towards that. And the other difference is that I'm working a lot with technologies, digital technology in this field as well. So how we can monitor this equipment outside Brazil, how we can bring this data in, do predictive type maintenance in these kind of machines, and I don't know, and change our business model. So I think these are the changes that we are that I'm bringing in that we didn't think about, a few years back.
Yeah. So, George, three generations of engineers and three generations of entrepreneurs. And what's your expectation for your children?
Look, he's 13 now, and my daughter is 9. Um, I don't know. I think they need to, at this stage, they need to know what we do. So
Yep.
I think, instilling them in a sort of a legacy. This is going to be eventually yours, or you can work here eventually. So at this stage, it's more for them to know what we do. So they come with us a few times a year, and at the factory, they know where we're at. I share a lot of information with them about what we're doing in Mexico, what we're doing in other places. But he's going to be free to choose whatever
Mhm.
he's a bit too early for them, right? But I think they need to be free to choose whatever they want in their lives. If they want to be a musician, fine. To me, my job is to have the company and the business cannot rely on the next generation. My father was actually lucky that he had me coming in, because if that happened and I wasn't in the company, probably, it was
Yeah.
going to be a very difficult time when we had to sell the company for something. But
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
job for the next generation is to have a company where if they wanted to work for this company, which is going to be completely different by the time they graduate or they know what they want to do with their
Yeah.
lives, they can have that opportunity if the company is still there. Um, but they have to change their path. They're too young yet.
Yeah.
And thinking about succession, I think that's another thing that the company needs to be structured in a way
Yeah.
that if
Absolutely.
I wanted to step out, I could one day. I don't want to do
Yeah.
that now. I don't think I'm doing that, the next few years. But the company needs to be structured in a way that if I had to leave, if I'm not the best CEO
Yeah.
for the job, I'll bring somebody in. If you want to have a successor, while my kids eventually want to work there, but they're not ready yet, I can have a successor. But for the next generation, that's what my plan is really.
Yep. Yep.
And
That makes sense.
I suppose, George, looking back on your journey, do you feel successful?
Oh, I'll say I'm happy. So if I'm happy with what I'm doing, I'm successful. I'm happy with my life, with my personal life, what I'm doing work wise, with friends, with family. So I'd say, but success, as I said, it's a journey, right? You can be
Yeah,
successful today, and something happens tomorrow. So yeah, I think if you take the picture, not the movie, yeah, for sure, I would say that. Um,
that's awesome. I really like that. Take the picture, not the movie. I suppose, George, this conversation has been fascinating, and you've done so much in your time, and your journey is incredible. And we could talk at length about it, but I want to wrap up here. And throughout our conversation, I've been jotting down a few key points, which I think have been factors which have led to your successful life, and I want to share them with you. The first one I think is the biggest one, and I could honestly just leave it at this, but it's you're a continuous learner. Whether it was, going and getting all of these degrees that you wanted to get and then going and getting your PhD and then or when you realized, hey, there's no business knowledge in this business, I need to get that and upskill on that, going and getting your MBA and then eventually going to Harvard, you're always kind of looking for that knowledge and always trying to upskill yourself and constantly developing, even now, reading stuff on change management and trying to understand so that you can progress yourself and the business forward. I think that's definitely the key one for me. But the next is, I suppose it's taking the leap or taking opportunities, whether it was, you know, deciding you had to move country, come to Australia or, go to New York. You always were willing to take that leap. And, it's a risk that I suppose not everyone would be willing to take. And in doing so, it opens the doors to new opportunities, which eventually, led you to your success. The next one is you're an innovator. And I think that comes from your engineering side of things, but you're always looking for a better way to do things and optimizing, which, in a family business is definitely a strong skill to have. And the last one is self-confidence. I think it takes a lot to forge your own path when there's, an easy option for you to take. You could have easily slotted into the family business from when you were young, but you wanted to forge your own path, go out, see the world, learn things. And then even when you came into the business, you wanted to do things your way. I think that's really important because, you're doing things for you and not being shaped by other people around you.
And also you mentioned your dad had a really great relationship with your employees. And I can see that you're continuing with that, and knowing you for a shorter period. I know you're very good with relationship, someone that anyone can trust and anyone can go and have a chat, and knowing that, it's very genuine chat. So that's also another strength that you're bringing, George, and thank you so much for having this conversation with us. It was really great to know a bit more about detail about your business and your life. And thanks for sharing that with us.
Well, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun talking to you guys. It was so great to see both of you working together. Enjoyed it a lot, Dylan.
That's it.
Yeah, that's something that really is really good for you to guys have as long as you can. Because life's short and it's unexpected things can happen.
Absolutely.
I just enjoy life. So, thank you so much again. It was a great, great pleasure. And I hope to see you both soon somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have you down here one day soon.
For sure. It's been a while that I haven't been to Australia.
Yeah, that's it. And for those of you who have gained something from today's episode, it would be awesome if you could like and subscribe to this episode. And you can see more of our incredible content over on our website, thequestforsuccesspodcast.com. And with that, we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening.